All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is, and right here, right now, we actually have legendary East Coast hip hop artist. He was signed to Tommy Boy, he was signed to Def Jam Records. This individual is a jack of all trades. We got the one and only Trigga the Gambler right here, live on the line, man. How are you doing this evening?
How you feeling, brother? I'm doing great right now.
I have to ask, man, how's everything out there on the New York side of things, man? It must be so breath of fresh air just to get back to relatively normal life.
Oh yeah, to be honest with you, I'm down in Virginia. I'm in Virginia. The same kind of thing that's going on, with the pandemic. It's kind of opening up now. It's giving people, more opportunity to get out and kind of mingle more. We've been stuck in the house for so long. So it's giving everybody opportunity to get out, and I'm kind of glad of that right now.
But I know you're a busy guy, so I'm going to dive right into this broadcast, but I got to take you back to the beginning of your amazing career this far. And I have to ask first and foremost, man, what originally inspired you to pick up a microphone originally, man? Because me personally, whenever I put on a Trigga the Gambler record, you can just hear how amazing you are as an MC.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. To be honest with you, when I was young, my dad, he kind of got me more to music. He used to bring hip-hop records into the home, and me and my brother Smooth the Hustler, big up to him. We used to just sit there and listen to the music, but as far as me writing and getting more into rapping myself, it was more my brother Smooth the Hustler. He was more into writing and rapping. And I used to just watch him as he was young, like 8, 9 years old. I used to just watch him do it. He used to be writing since then. He used to walk around with a book all the time and just write. So I picked up more freestyling and battle rapping. That's what we called it back in the days. It was more freestyling and just going off the top of the head. And he was more of a writer, putting together his lyrics and putting together concepts and things like that. He was doing that since young. So I kind of picked up everything from him when it came to me writing and just being focused on concepts and stuff like that.
And also, as well, in the year 1995, you were actually featured on your brother's hit single, Broken Language. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners the story behind that legendary song, and of course, what was it like just collaborating with your brother on that particular track? Because that song definitely did some phenomenal numbers.
Yeah, to be honest with you, that was kind of like, with me, it was kind of like my first song to be on his album. DR had came to me one day and he was like, you're doing a lot of freestyle rapping, you're going around battling everybody, you're tearing up all these cyphers. I used to go to Pozo Lounge and Lyricist Lounge a lot. But he was like, look, I'm going to give you this beat. You need to make it on your brother's album. And at the time, I wasn't focused. I wasn't focused on really getting on albums and things like that. I wanted to be on it, but I didn't know what it took to be on it. So I went back and I took the beat, and I was sitting in the house, and I was like, well, I don't have no direction. I'm going to just do what I do normally. And the way Broken Language came about is because that's something me and Smooth used to do, freestyle rapping. We used to battle each other rapping like that, when we was young. And so I just said, you know what, I'm going to do what I know best. And I started writing Broken Language. And then Smooth came into the house, and I was like, yo, you know what? Check this out real quick. So he listened to what I was doing, and he just walked into the room, and he was sitting in the room, and he came back out 20 minutes and was like, yo, look what I got. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait a minute, this coincides exactly what we're doing right now. He's like, just continue to write, I'm going to continue to write, and we'll come together at the end of it. And that's what we did, and we kind of like, it went so smoothly, to where once we did get together, we didn't even have to change any lyrics or anything. So we just sat down and put it together and took it back to DR and let DR put his genius work, his touch on the track, because it was just really a baseline track that he gave us to write Broken Language. And it had no elements to it. It had no drops or anything like that in it. So it was kind of us just going off of that real freestyle vibe, just with the baseline beat, and that's it. So we were just happy that it turned out to be something that we loved so much, far as what we did as freestyle rapping against each other, that the world loved it. And I appreciated that, and it was great writing with my brother.
And I gotta say, you guys, obviously, you guys are actual brothers, but you guys still had such phenomenal chemistry when you guys got together on a song, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the cause and the effect. Me and my brothers is kind of like the odd couple when it comes to a lot of things. We're totally different. The way we live our lifestyle, just the way we are, home. We're just totally different when it comes to a lot of things. But we think alike. We think alike. We see a lot of vision in the same way. And it's easy for us because we're brothers and we've been around. We've seen a lot. We've been through a lot. And a lot of times we talk, it was just me and him growing up. So we talk about everything. So it's nothing that he can't come to me and say, yo, I got this idea, let's go this direction. And I could be somewhere in another country or whatever, but the energy that he gives when he talks to me, I know exactly what to write, and it's vice versa. When I call him and say, hey, I got this idea, I want to write this, and he go, okay, just give me the topic. And by the time we come together and we sit down together, because we don't write together, we write separately. So when we get together, it's kind of like we were sitting right there with each other right here. And that's what makes it the match. It's beautiful.
And also, as well, in the mid-1990s, you actually signed a deal with Def Jam Records. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners the story behind that record deal. And, of course, how did yourself and Def Jam Records originally get connected?
To be honest with you, by Smooth having the deal on Profile Records, putting out the album on Profile, I was able to be on his album. And at that time, I was signed to no record label. I wasn't even signed to Profile. I was a feature on my brother's album, so I was freelancing. But I'm here with a #1 record that's on every radio station, #1. So it had a lot of business that was going on at the time. Everybody was coming to me. You had the Puff Daddies. You had, all the different labels that was big at the time, that was even just starting out at the time. They was coming and saying, hey, we want to do this with you. Why don't you come over here? And it was just Russell and Leo kind of talked the right numbers with me, and they talked the right vision. They had the same vision, that I kind of had when it came down to putting out the album and what direction I wanted to go. And so I went on with Def Jam. I think Def Jam was a powerful machine at the time, and they were great as business partners. This is one of the reasons why, even though my project, didn't drop physically on Def Jam, I still have a great relationship with them because they didn't do anything with me. I was able to walk away with my masters and still own my publishing, so that was me.
And speaking of that project, that was actually one of my next questions actually on the list about pertaining to Life's a 50-50 Gamble. I was always wondering, man, because obviously I know that album had an unofficial release. It is out there on the internet to be streamed and purchased today. But I have to ask, back then, during the Def Jam days, why didn't Def Jam originally put that album out? Like, what did they ever give you a reason, or did they just tell you we're not dropping this album?
Nah, see, to be honest with you, Def Jam never came to me like that. It wasn't Def Jam's decision at that time to put the album out. It was my decision. It was things that was going on up at Def Jam under the third-party contract that I was under, which was Dante Ross, No Doubt Entertainment. And because I had another artist up there, which was my other partner, D.V. Elias Price, he had a copycat deal that I had at Def Jam, and he didn't even have a project yet. I had got him a deal at Def Jam, me and my brother Smooth the Hustler, as a copycat deal. And we was finding out some things that was going on under the table pertaining, No Doubt Entertainment. So what I did was I stepped in and stopped the project. I went to Leo, I went to Russell, I went to DR Period, and we sat down, and I explained to him why I wanted the project stopped at that time. Plus, there was a lot of things as far as business that I learned more about at that time, even though I didn't have a bad deal at all. I did a $1.5 million deal with Def Jam in '96, and at the same year, revamped the budget again for another 1.5. So I was doing great with Def Jam with that. It wasn't Def Jam themselves. Def Jam, we sat down and they asked me, do you want to come directly to Def Jam? And I was doing that. At the time, was going directly to Def Jam, but at the same time, there was a lot of labels that was getting dropped at Def Jam. And by me being up there, I was seeing the ones that was going and the ones that was coming. And a lot of times under the table, I had a lot of say so on who was coming and who was staying. And I try to keep hip-hop A&Rs at Def Jam at that time. They was just coming up there. You know, I don't want to really speak names. They was just coming up there. And I was doing artist development for Def Jam with a lot of different artists. So, you know, it was up to me basically to say, you know what, let me pull this project back. Because I didn't want people to eat off it. I didn't want people to make money that wasn't supposed to make money. I didn't want people that wasn't real from the door to reap any benefits at the end. And I'm just straight up like that. Like, money doesn't make me. I know who I am as an individual. I'm a strong person. I've always stood on both feet. So when I see something that's going wrong, I'm gonna bring it to the table. And I feel like at the same time, I don't sell my soul for anything. So when I saw something wasn't right, I pulled it back. And I know a lot of my fans, a lot of friends, a lot of people was like, you know, why Def Jam ain't dropped it? What happened? Oh, they dropped him. They shelved him. Nah, Def Jam didn't do none of that. There was some things that was going on that we said, you know what, we don't want this single. Let's do the next single. And so we would stop the single at the moment and revamp for the next single, which I was still doing underground singles, putting those out independently. I never stopped putting out independent music, me and my brother, since we was on Def Jam or Profile Records. So I just always felt like Def Jam didn't make or break me, so I'm going to continue to do what I was doing. And I was just putting out music, waiting for the moment for us to figure out what we needed to do to make it right. You know, I didn't want to put out anything that will be sour later. So I'd rather take the fall in the beginning to pull back than rather ride it out and then later on in life end up with nothing, you know, because I know how those contracts work. I know how those splits work. You know, I was doing those contracts in the beginning, me and my brother, from day one. So I know how everything was. So I said I wasn't going to be the one that just be a slave to the industry, and it's just what it is.
And before we move off the topic of, you know, the Def Jam Records days, in 1996 you actually released a single titled My Crew Can't Go For That was ultimately featured on the Nutty Professor soundtrack. I was wondering, what is the story behind that song, and of course, how did that soundtrack placement come to be for you? Because Nutty Professor was such a huge movie in the 90s.
Yes, it was. Big up to Def Jam on that and DR Period, because they came to me with the idea. It was kind of more of an R&B soundtrack, and I was kind of like the last artist to get on the soundtrack. When they came to me, they was like, well, you know, the soundtrack's about to be shut down. Do you want a song on it? But my partner, D.V. Elias Christ, because he was a singer as also a hip-hop artist, he was like, yo, you know what, let's sit down and just put something together real fast, and we can do this. And I was like, okay, cool, let's knock it out. And DR sat down and came up with the idea of saying, look, let's put together this old song from Hall & Oates, and let's try something different, try something new. You know, because we could have came, we had so many different records to give Def Jam at that time. I was just like, nah, let's do something different. Plus, we are cool. I need everybody to see us as an entourage, not just me as an individual. As you notice, any of my singles that came out of Def Jam, it was always with my brother and my partner, right? You know, because it wasn't about me just being a solo artist or anything like that. I never had the intentions to really do all that, to be real with you. You know, so my thing was to make sure we could just be successful and blow up as a team, as an entourage. I'm not a selfish person, so this is how I looked at it, you know, and I was looking at it like this since I was young.
And also, as well, you were actually a member of the hip-hop group SMG, Sex, Money, and Guns. I was wondering, what is the story behind that group? And, of course, what made all you guys decide to come together and form SMG? Because you guys were so phenomenal together.
Yes, thank you for saying that. To be honest with you, SMG started from a street movement. It was something I created when I was 13 years old. I was 13, 14 years old. And it was a movement I was doing through school, and just me and my brother and our close friends and like that. And once we got up with our OG Ice-T, we just decided. We sat down, and he was like, yo, where do you get that name from? And I was just like, something we had as kids, is what we represent. And he was like, this would be dope for a group. And I never thought of it like that. And I was like, a group? And my brother was like, yeah, a group. This is something that we should do. And it was just made so much sense because Ice was good friends of ours. And at that moment, you know, that East Coast and West Coast stuff was coming about. And we was trying to do something different because, like I said, I'm not a follower. So I don't get involved with what two other men go through or what other men go through. I don't get involved in that. So what I did was we sat down and we said, look, let's create the group. Big up to Mick Benzo, Mickey Benson, who basically came to us and you know, told us that Ice wanted to basically build with us. And that's what we did. We got together and we just sat down and we said, let's go in the studio and let's create a project. So I went in the studio and I started recording the S&G album. And then I started telling everybody, like, hey, the songs are done. We need verses. Let's go. And everybody came and started doing what they needed to do. And the project came out good. You know, to me, it came out good. It was excellent. Excellent project to have a West Coast and two East Coast artists on the same project. You know, so it was beautiful.
And I remember as well in 2003 when that Repossession album actually dropped, man. Such a monumental project, man. I remember getting my hands on that, and I couldn't stop listening to Compton, Brooklyn, man. So, one of my favorite songs on that particular album.
Oh, yes. Thank you, though. I mean, I love the project itself because it was very creative of us, how we put it together. But you're right. That Compton and Brooklyn song was definitely a brilliant song for us to do because Compton is like the heart of L.A. and kind of like Brownsville, Brooklyn is like the heart of New York up there. So it's kind of like that's what we did. We said, you know what, let's put something together that both coasts can respect and love, and we can have something together that we can say Brooklyn, Compton. But they can shout that out together and understand there's no beef in between two coasts. So that was kind of something we wanted to do to make sure that was stamped in the album.
And if I'm not mistaken as well, pertaining to Repossession, you were also the executive producer of that particular project. I have to ask, what was it like just being behind the board, you know, just actually piecing together this phenomenal project?
Oh, man, it was something different for me, to be honest with you. I have never done it, but only with myself, you know, creating my own album, the 50 Gamble album, and, you know, sitting in the studio with certain artists like Stereo the Big Man, another artist I worked with years, a lot of other artists I brought in the game, just working with them and stuff. You know, it was for me to get behind the board, it was really, really something different to sit there and kind of put songs together with the thought of me, my brother, Ice-T, Mark Live, Deuce Fever. You know, when you have different artists and they all great in their own way, you can't write for individuals, but you can place the record a certain way to where you can give vision and give direction. And I think I did a great job doing that, you know, alone. So I loved it, to be honest with you. I loved it, you know. And I'm working with more artists now doing the same thing. I've put together about 6 different projects already. So, you know, it's ready to be launched. And that's what we're waiting on, you know.
And also, right now, you are actually the CEO of Royalty Records, man. I was wondering, what actually made you decide to start up this record label? And, of course, who is currently signed to you today?
Well, to be honest with you, Royalty Records was something that me and my Virginia team had put together. We came up with an idea and said, all of us have different entities. And I'm telling the whole entourage to say, okay, you know, we have all different entities, but we need to come together and do something as one. And especially when you're trying to bring boroughs together, you know, Brooklyn, North Carolina, Virginia, which is Richmond, you know, big up to, you know, my people out in Greensboro, stuff like that, out in North Carolina. And so when you're trying to bring that type of vibe together, you know, you want to be on the right path. And you want to do the right thing. And that's what I was doing. I said, you know what? Royalty Records would be something that just represents all of us as being royalty. You know, every individual feels that they have this type of royalty for themselves. So that's what I did. And I sat down and I said, you know what? We're going to create this project, which we did. We did a whole album. Then we turned around and we shot 7 videos for the album. And the artist that I'm working with now is H. Williams. He's a producer from Virginia. And my other partner is T Merch. T Merch is another artist I have. T Merch, he's also a producer. He also raps, he produces himself. And we produce each other. So it's three producers that's producing each other, and each producer is an artist. So it's great to have your artists that can do production, engineering, and all that type of stuff, and create projects without having to really run around and wait for individuals to come and do that. To have that in-house, that's what we was building. We've been building that up. And we just finished building a 2,300 square foot studio out in Richmond, Virginia, the first one that was built on this type of level. And it's open for the artists, that's in Virginia, North Carolina, whoever basically want to reach out and come work with Smooth the Hustler and Trigga the Gambler. We have a full facility, and it's called S&G, Smith Brothers, and we're here. Reach out to us anytime,
And also as well, I know you actually have another company as well that you actually have is a security company titled Tactical Security Company that you guys, you also don't just have security for normal individuals, but you also use it for musical talent as well. I was wondering if you can tell us a bit more about that, and of course, if any industry individuals are listening that do want to hire you guys for your services, how can they go about doing so?
They can reach out to us on our website, Secure More Grounds. I started the company up a couple of years back, and we finally got it off the ground to where we have over about 15, 20 employees that work under the company. But the company consists of bail agents, private investigators, armed security, unarmed security, personal protection, and executive protection. So if anybody that's looking for those services can reach out to us anytime. www.securemorgrounds.com. You can reach out to us anytime.
But I gotta ask as well, Trigger, what is next for yourself, man? Because I do know this evening we only touched base on pretty much 1% of your iconic career here this evening. But is there anything we happen to miss? Anything else you do still want to talk about or promote? Well, we still got you here live on the 97.7 FM dial this evening.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Pay attention, look out for the Smith Brother album. We'll be up online, sometime between September and October. The Trigga the Gambler project will be up in July online. And all you have to do is just pay attention to Smooth the Hustler and Trigga the Gambler. My page is the same. Trigga the Gambler Facebook is the same for Twitter. Trigga S&G Twitter. You can also Google, and everything is up there, and you can go on there from that. But we have a lot on the plate, to be honest with you, more than even just music. It's so much. The market is so open in Virginia that we're starting up so much. And it's one thing I do want to tell everybody to pay attention to. There's going to be a new app going up for internet. And I think every family in the world is going to want to be a part of this. Okay, so if you're listening, Google, Microsoft, anybody out there listening, holler at me, because trust me when I tell you, I have the patent for it, I have the prototype for it, and I'm just letting everybody know the new name of the app is going to be called Revolt. And what it's about is breaking down the families that want to leave information online back to their loved ones. It's kind of a vote for people that, sick people that can't leave a will or that want to leave a will. Wills get changed around so many times. And people don't have something that they can have that's sacred to them, that can be passed on to the next generation without being tampered with. So I'm going to give y'all that right there, and just understand this is something you can sit in front of. You can videotape anything you want to talk about, and you can leave it in there for years. It's called a vote. And you can also pass your family members the codes or information for them to get into it and add on to it. And the vote is consisted of a family tree. So families or kids that's not born yet can pull that up years from now and say, hey, That was my great-great-grandfather. But see, the difference with that, the great-great-grandfather can actually leave his story and talk to his great-great-grandchildren instead of them just having a picture. Times is changing, all right? So everybody pay attention to that. The app will be up very soon, and it's called Vote. And I would love for everybody to take a look at it.
And I gotta say as well, that is a phenomenal app idea, man. And I gotta say, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that drop and actually downloading it myself, man, because I can't believe that nobody else has ever thought about that, and I'm glad that you have, man, because that is definitely a phenomenal application that's really going to give a lot of families, and also just families throughout history, so many memories of their past loved ones.
Yes, yes. And that's something I, just thinking of and thought of because I have children, and my last set of kids are twins. I have a boy and a girl. They'll be 8 years old at the end of this month, and big up to them because that's who motivate me and push me and drive me to go forward. Unfortunately, I lost their mom. Sorry, when it was about 9 months. So it's just as a single father, doing what I have to do and to raise them. I think I'm doing the best job ever to try to keep these businesses going, doing music, raising families, and trying to continue to help other families grow and be successful. That's my job right now.
And I gotta say, first and foremost, Trigga, before we wrap things up, man, I do know that you dropped your social media handles briefly a few moments ago, but if you can drop them social media handles just one more time, that way our listeners can pull out their phones and follow you all across the board.
All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna do that for you right now. If anybody that's out there that's listening and paying attention, I'm gonna give y'all my email also, because I like for people to reach out on my email. My email is savemygenerationpg@gmail.com. Also, Trigga, SMG, for my Twitter. You can pull up Trigga the Gambler for my Instagram. And it's also Tywone, Tywone, Smith, for my Facebook.
And I gotta say, first and foremost, Trigga, thank you so much, man, for just giving us a bit of your time here this evening and sliding into the 97.7 FM airways, man. I have been a fan of yourself and your brother for a long time, man, so just being able to say I've interviewed both of you guys and got to help promote your guys' work is such a tremendous honor, man. So thank you so much for your time this evening, and of course, years of monumental music that all of us had the opportunity to cherish and listen to for so many years.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Outlaw Radio has always been the best. 97.7. Love it.
Hey, man, I gotta say, I definitely appreciate the love, man. I really do, and it means a lot coming from a legendary individual like yourself, Trigga. But I gotta say, man, definitely have yourself a wonderful night, and hopefully down the line we can make this happen again sometime soon.
Oh, yes, real soon. Me and Smooth, we can sit together. If you need us to, we sit together. We can give you the best interview you need. There's a lot more we can talk about. I just wanted to get briefly to the point of everything. But thank you so much for reaching out, and we really appreciate it. And to everybody that's out there, stay safe. Y'all have a blessed night. Don't let anybody change, who you are, and always keep striving for what you want and what you believe in. All right?
I gotta say, man, that's the best advice out there, man. Thank you so much again, Trigga. Definitely have yourself a wonderful night.
Thank you. You too. Y'all have a blessed one.